Coinsilium Group is a Web3 advisor, venture builder, and investor. It's listed on the Aquis market and in the US. Its co-founder and chief executive is Eddie Travius. So, Eddie, I'm talking to you at the beginning of May. There's plenty of hype about the flight of listed companies to being private companies. So, why is stock exchange exposure the best option for Coinsilium?
We wanted our shares to be traded on the stock exchange because we wanted to provide some exposure to retail investors to this market. It's a very specialized market. It's a difficult market for people who are not inside in terms of knowing more about the technology or knowing what kind of companies are active and serious. So we felt that that was the best way to do so. And at the same time, our shares started to be listed in the exchange at the end of 2015, which is very early in the life cycle of blockchain until now. And at the time, we felt that it brought some legitimacy to the whole sector, to Coinsilium, of course, but at the same time to the whole sector. And that was many years before Bitcoin ETFs and other more let's say mature products.
So right at the beginning, I said that you were a Web3 advisor. What is Web3 and how mature is it?
So there are a couple of different definitions of Web3. The initial term was coined when people looking at the evolution of the internet, they started to realize that the internet moved along, let's say, historically as well, from Web 1 to Web 2, at least in terms of the origins of the internet, and then Web 2 starting around mid 2000 when applications start being larger, especially social media applications. But overall, even insiders felt that internet was becoming too centralized. So basically, very large companies started to monopolize a lot of the data, a lot of the services. When the original idea of internet was much more open source and decentralized for everyone to enjoy it. So there's been a movement towards something called Web3, which brings back the idea of decentralization in internet and kind of breaks down a bit these monopolies that are in these silos that have been created. So because the crypto space is as decentralized as one of the main, let's say, principles of the technology and also some ideology, this term came back, and this time with more of what we call a crypto angle, meaning that Web3 today encompasses almost all types of blockchain related activities, but more in the consumer facing application areas. So Web3 is very wide today. It goes from social media to finance and to various aspects of the blockchain space. It kind of replaces really the blockchain terms in many instances.
So what is the purpose of Coinsilium? Is it to be an open source ambassador, and how would you monetize that?
I mean, in a way, we have always been, yes, a kind of ambassador to the whole space, because this space requires a lot of education. So you can imagine that in 2014, 15, speaking to brokers and investors in financial hubs like London or Hong Kong, we spent a lot of time, educating the market, obviously. So now, as you were saying, we are advisors. So meaning we have built quite an extensive network of industry insiders, of experts in both technology, tokenomics, and various aspects of Web3. So in the advisory capacity, we mainly help all these companies who want to become major actors in Web3, and have to go through certain steps, which we know well because we have helped so many companies go through those. So that's one aspect of it. But of course, since the origin as well, we have been investing in the space too. So we both invest and advise, and sometimes what we call venture build, which is investing with a more proactive, hands-on role in the company.
So, in terms of that element, the investment element, would you describe the business as a quasi fund?
Yes, in a way, a bit more flexibility for us because we don't have um, limited partners or a mandate. We basically raise funds through different subscriptions or placements, and after that, we decide on what is the best way to deploy this capital. But of course, we have been since the beginning of our journey, which is 2014. We have been investing in pioneers in this space and companies that we believe have quite a lot of potential in Web3 or blockchain technology.
Okay, so 10 years then, that's an awful long time. Are you able to name any of the companies that you've helped along their way?
Yes, sure. So, we have both invested and advised quite large companies. Some of those have gone to raise very significant amounts of funding. In terms of advisory, we have advised what became later multi-billion-dollar companies. One of them is called Phantom, Icon. So that was in a advisory capacity. And in terms of investment, we have also been, investing in companies that have done what we call ICOs, initial coin offerings, like, for example, Indoors, which in 2017 issued their own tokens. And then we have also invested in originally more in equity. So these companies where we were taking equity stakes, which is more the traditional way of investing. But more recently, or over the last 2 or 3 years, we have also invested in future tokens because we felt that this is where the value would be held. And therefore, for example, in 2022, we invested in companies like Yellow Network, which aims to redefine crypto trading, cryptocurrency trading in a very new ambitious way. We have also invested in a company in the Web3 gaming, which is a completely kind of new dimension for the multi-billion-dollar gaming industry. So we have invested probably in more than 20 companies along the years, and we still have a substantial portfolio. But of course, as I was saying, today it's more geared towards token value than equity value.
Okay, so we'll talk about the token value element of the business because I understand equity, but I don't understand tokens. So
Mhm.
what is it that makes this valuable?
So what happened in mainly 2017, end of 2016, early 2017, is that there's been a convergence of different technologies. One of them was the smart contract, which basically enables for these companies to issue a token, and that token will have a role in the operations of the project. So it can be just providing access to the project. It can be used to pay. It can be used to participate in the governance of the project. So it's, instead of equity, it's a much more active way of participating in the venture. The reason why this happened is because these projects were open source, and it meant that, for example, the IP could be open source, or maybe they were building on some other open source IP that was available out there. So it was difficult for them to sell equity in this type of project. And at the same time, of course, in terms of the ethos of the project, it fits well with the idea of decentralization. And what happened is it created a huge market. I mean, today, the cryptocurrency market cap is $2.3 trillion. Of course, a majority, let's say, it's in the major digital assets, so Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some what we call stable coins. But behind that, you have thousands of tokens, which are also digital assets created by different projects, different organizations, which are sometimes foundations, non-profit, etc. So you have different legal setups for that. So the great thing for investors with tokens is either you can have an active role in the governance of the company or participating under different type of roles. But also it's a very liquid market, a bit like stock exchanges in a way. You have the capacity to sell those tokens at a, of course there are conditions, but let's say it can be quicker than selling equity where you need important or major liquidity events. So for tokens, investors have been happy to at least have some form of liquidity quite early on. And for the projects, they felt that in some instances, it was easier to do that, to issue tokens than to issue shares, which are maybe going on exchanges and so forth. Of course, it presented a lot of, challenges for the projects as well, but all in all, it has created a lot of value on both sides, I believe.
Okay, so the challenges are understandable, but hopefully not insurmountable. So the challenges aside, how profitable is Coinsilium, or is it very capital intensive at this stage of its development?
Well, yes, it's difficult to talk in terms of profitability because the main revenue generating activity for Coinsilium is advisory, and obviously it's going to vary from one client to another. Usually the way it works is a retainer and a token, a share of the tokens or a certain number of tokens under different conditions. So therefore, to become, let's say, a significant amount of money or revenues, the tokens have to be listed, become liquid, and so forth. So different conditions have to be met for this to happen. In terms of capital intensive, I mean, we tend to, we are, of course, we carefully select the companies we invest in or the future tokens we're buying. And it's quite modular in the sense that we can allocate capital, basically the way we want to, based on the desirability criteria of different projects. So yes, we still have both. We still have the investing activity and the revenue generating activity. And until now, this has worked fine for us.
So you say we, I wonder how many people are on the payroll, how many advisors, how many people are chasing the leads. In terms of personnel, how many, active practitioners are involved in your company?
Well, we have a board of directors, and the main members of the board of directors are the chairman, Malcolm Pally, and myself. I'm the CEO, as you were saying. Then we have non-executive directors, but who have very useful skills. So one of the non-executive directors is Federica Velardo. She's a lawyer. She has been practicing in London for many years. We know her through through the legal work she had done for us. So she helps us a lot with different legal tasks that we may have. The other non-executive director is in Gibraltar. So we have our main offices in Gibraltar, where the chairman is based. And Wayne Almeida has been working, for example, in company administration, and he also works for a blockchain company in Gibraltar. So yes, so we have non-exec directors who have useful skills for the company. Apart from that, we have an advisory kind of unit, which is led by Alexis Nicosia in Thailand, with someone who was doing advisory work, and we kind of took over his business, and he's now working for Coinsilium as a consultant. And he's the one that brings some leads, and for example, recently announced what we call a real world asset project as an advisory client. It's called LC Light. It's in the world of factoring and trade finance. And this is a contact. This is a contact through Alexis Nicosia, who's helping us in the advisory department. Yeah, so I would say, Malcolm and I, we do most of the work, but we do have, of course, support personnel. We have a CFO as well, who is very helpful, Ben Profit, and he comes, of course, with from the accounting world as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm always afraid to use this word, but how unique is Coinsilium? Is there anybody else out there who does what you do?
Well, there are people who are investing, obviously, advising. I think Coinsilium is unique in when you combine different things. The first, there are not so many companies on stock exchanges in the world of blockchain. And those that are usually have a very active or capital intensive activity like mining, Bitcoin mining or cryptocurrency mining. And these companies, yes, they have a very different MO or a different activity than we do. We don't do any mining, we don't run servers, data servers, etc. I think funds there are several funds out there. Funds are usually not listed as well. The shares are not traded on different stock exchanges. They have a bit of a different structure. So we are a bit unique in the sense that we have both this investing and advisory activity, and we also offer this opportunity to retail investors on stock exchange.
Okay, so how would you describe the characteristics of your investor base? Are they slaves? Are the retail investors slaves to the stop loss technical analysis way of trading, or do you have long-term investors, the cornerstones, who are going to be with you through thick and thin?
Well, so the first thing is we have to understand that this is a very cyclical market. We are basically in what we call, so the cycle is dictated by the cryptocurrency prices, which are themselves dictated by mainly the macroeconomic situation, but also the natural halving of Bitcoin rewards. So Bitcoin rewards are halved every 4 years. When we started, the first halving was in 2016. There was the one in 2020, and now it just happened earlier this month, 2024. The cycle has shown until now, historically, that crypto prices tend to go up in tandem with the Bitcoin a few months after the halving. So we had a very good year to end of 2017 till mid 2018. Then we had another, what we call hype cycle, in end of 2020 until early or mid 2022. And so we expect another good cycle coming up. So in terms of it affects everything. This cycle affects the whole market sentiment as well, meaning more deals, investments, overall in industry, more companies adopting the technology, various developments that are really, there's really bullish sentiment for the whole sector. So I believe our shareholders have obviously seen this. They have hopefully benefited from it at the right time. And basically Coinsilium share price has been following this cycle as well, with quite a large difference between what we call the crypto winter, or the lesser activity years, and the hype years. So yeah, so I think we have hopefully long-term investors, but I'm pretty sure some of them have managed to take advantage of these cycles.
So in terms of the long term, when you mind map the business and adjust the strategy as you grow, what is the vision? To be bought by a competitor or by private equity, to have franchises? What is it that the board want currently and in the long term?
No, there's no such plans. First of all, I think overall a lot of people have been underestimating the impact of blockchain technology. And we see it as another internet, in the sense that it can have an impact as strong as the internet. I mean, I was mentioning, 2.3 trillion market cap, which is it's a huge industry. 50 to 70 billion of trading per day in terms of cryptocurrency market, which of course is smaller than forex or derivatives, but it's still, it's starting to be a much more mature industry, at least in the area of trading. So, our aim is to hopefully have already possibly invested in some of the winners that are coming in the next few years. And if we have, then we should be able to remain independent, because when there are winners in this space, it's a big, we're talking about very large amounts of revenues, token prices very high, massive valuations. I mean, there are many companies out there that have token market caps above $1 billion. So obviously coming early, because our strategies, we always come very early. When the company is very recently formed, where people have a new concept, etc. The reason we do that is because it's cheaper, it's a lower valuation, it's people we trust. So that's the vision. The vision is we come early into a project that becomes one of the top projects in their space. And if that's the case in crypto, the windfall, the benefits can be extremely large. So yeah, so that's the vision, really, is to either build along or invest in one of these winners.
So finally, Eddie, who are these winners of the future apart from Coinsilium investors?
So you mean in terms of the investments we have made, for example? Okay.
Yes, the ones you're targeting.
Yeah. So historically, the most lucrative area has been cryptocurrency trading, different ways. So I think the market knows, or the people at large have heard about the large cryptocurrency exchanges, which interestingly have a very it's not a mainstream model. I mean, they just basically take a small percentage of transaction fees, etc. And although they make a lot of money, it's not that current in traditional finance. I think so. We're looking at that space. We're looking at that space through, as I was mentioning before, Yellow Network, because we feel that they have first of all, they have the technical skills, they have the talent, and they have the ambition to become quite a large player in a new form of cryptocurrency trading, which is using the brokerage model, which is not being used in crypto trading at the moment. So that could be one of those. We're also looking at Web3 social media, because Web2 social media, which is a social media we use every day, it's a model that is losing steam because of various reasons. And one of the reasons is this hyper centralization I was mentioning before. The data, my private data, is stored in these servers. These servers can get hacked. People don't make any money out of these, and people are a bit saturated as well with always going back to the same applications and so forth. So we see a potential here for a new model as well. And as I was saying, blockchain and decentralization can have a huge impact on many industries, traditional finance, supply chains, gaming, which are all massive industries out there. So yeah, so I think we'll see winners across those industries in the near future, hopefully.
Eddie Trevia, thank you very much indeed for the education. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Sarah.